I'm going to spell it because I want to make sure I get it right. BRANCHIO, then dash Oto dash Reno syndrome.
Here, let me.
So that was what my daughter was tested for, was her chromosomes, but did not show it. But the chromosome test doesn't always show it if she had that syndrome.
Right. Yeah, it's brachio-otorhinal syndrome. Brachio-otorhinal syndrome. And just like Microtia and Atresia, they tie it very closely to the ears and the heart and the kidneys because they all develop during the first trimester. And oftentimes when our children are born, if they haven't, they should be given a hearing test and a renal ultrasound, and some children even receive an EKG if they believe there's any issues associated or wrong with the heart. So I know that we all mentioned our children's ages, and I just want to ask some very specific questions so I can help answer as much as I can tonight on the call. I'm not sure how many of you have joined my support group, but as I had mentioned, when my daughter was born, there wasn't a whole lot of information given to us, and I try to say it's by no one's fault. Our doctors are not mind readers, they are not God, and there's not like a generalized conference that they all attend about everything. And of course, it doesn't help that Microtia and Atresia is rare. There's approximately 74,000 young, infant, teenage, old individuals in the U.S. currently today that have Microtia and Atresia, just to give you an idea of the statistic. So out of 310 million people in the U.S., 74,000 is not a lot. And I base that off of my statistics that I have found on research. When I crunched the numbers, it's actually on my support group, but I pulled it from September of last year, Google's information for the latest in population, and the research that I have found, it will say anywhere from 1 in 6,000 to 1 in 12,000 chance of having a child with Microtia or Atresia. So I personally feel that, or believe, it's closer to 1 in 6,000 here in the U.S. And
now,
let's see.
Go ahead. Has anyone looked about plastic surgery?
You know, we had a call with Dr. What's his name? Roche?
Reinish. Dr. Reinish.
I emailed him. I think I got his phone number off of and his information off of your. I'm part of your support group.
Yay!
I've got a lot of information from there. And I couldn't get over it. He spent over an hour talking to us, not just about the Medfor surgery, but all different kinds of reconstructive surgery and the kind of surgeries to open up her and recreate her ear canal if she is a candidate, and everything that we need to go through from there. I mean, it was just like hand-holding.
Right.
And then we got a phone call from someone in his office just to make sure we had more information, blogs, things about the different surgeries that were out there. I mean, and then someone called me from his office to talk about when I guess she gets old enough that they'll give us the order for the CT scan so we make sure we get the correct one and then work on, I guess, getting out there. And then she told me how much it would cost, and I think I had a coronary. But
And where's this doctor from?
This doctor's out of L.A.
Okay. And he used to go to, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, when you're done, if anyone on the call would like me to run down the options for Microtia and Atresia, I would be happy to, because I know absolutely all about it. So go ahead and then let me know if that's something you guys would like to hear in a nutshell real quick.
I think I've seen a video of him. I'm in the Chicagoland area, and we saw Dr. Bruce Bauer for her. And I believe the doctor that you're referring to did his medical school, I think, at Loyola. That was all I was saying.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm not sure where everyone is on a level, based on age and what options they're considering or even what options they've researched and even knew about for Microtia and Atresia. But I'll just go down. It's in no order. But the first option is, of course, you never have to do anything. After we all get over the shock of having our children and we realize, okay, you know what, they are going to be just fine. They don't have Down syndrome. They don't have cancer. I know sometimes it takes a while to realize this because we all had a perfect pregnancy. You know, we did everything we could, and it's just a little bit of a shock in the end when something happened that was unexpected. So there are lots of Microtia individuals, young and old, and there are also a mixed number of them on my group. And, you know, some are very happy. They were lucky enough to be raised with confidence. They get through in life. They're very successful. If anything, I have learned that someone with Microtia and Atresia, they tend to be high achievers, and there's nothing they can't do. Some have worn hearing aids, some have not. Some have managed to get around the hearing issue, either from reading lips, and also the brain is very smart. It will rewire itself to where you just adjust in your environment. And many Microtia Atresia individuals don't have speech issues, and for those who do have delays with their communication and speech in the beginning stages, typically they see therapists, and it's worked out and they're fine. It's just unilateral or bilateral hearing loss can cause quite a challenge for anyone to hear vocabulary correctly and be able to speak it. There's a delay a lot with background sounds and sound localization, so I think most of you know about this. That's why we try to encourage having ABR hearing tests every quarter to stay on top of the child's hearing, make sure it is not deteriorating, and also just to know how your child is actually hearing. On my support group, I've posted a couple of links where you can actually do a sound simulation through bone conduction hearing loss, and you can hear, say your child has a dB level of 65 hearing loss. You can actually play that and hear what your child is hearing, and it's quite amazing. It blew me away. I had originally assumed that my daughter was hearing a little bit better than that. She has 65 dB hearing loss, and it was explained to me that it's moderate to severe or like underwater hearing. And I guess when I heard underwater hearing, I thought it was like wah, 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 wah. She can't even hear the wah, 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 wah. It's almost silent. It was very shocking. So I have those demonstrations on my support group so you can be more in touch with your child and actually hear what they're hearing. I also wear Allie's Bajas around the house so I can hear what she's hearing as well. Let's see, the next option is prosthetic. There are quite a few prosthetic experts in the industry. One of them is Robert Barron. He is an ex-CIA agent, and he was a master of disguises, and he makes prosthetics that look real, anywhere from limbs to ears. And quite oftentimes, if this is the option or choice that the child and family is looking at, the ears have a little magnetic clip on them, and they attach right to their head. And sometimes the expert will suggest or recommend that maybe partial part of the ear be removed, or if there has already been a surgery that took place and it unfortunately just didn't work out, they'll try and see if they can't have the rest of that ear removed so that the prosthetic will fit better. The ear does not just fall off. I know a lot of people worry about that option. They try to consider everything that would be the best for their child, but it doesn't require surgery if you didn't have to have it in the first place or something, like I said, unfortunately didn't work out right. You just clean it at night and you take it off when you go to bed, and you put it back on the next day. So, again, that's an option. And then the third option is the gold standard of the industry. It has been around since 1920, and it is the rib graft technique. This surgery now can be achieved in 3 to 4 procedures instead of 5 to 7. So medical advancements in technology are getting better and better every day. Some of the top rib graft surgeons out there are Dr. Burt Brent. He's out of Woodside, California. And he basically is a pioneer in the industry for the rib graft technique. It entails a skin graft that your child will have and a rib graft. So they'll actually take a portion of the rib and they will shape it into an ear, and then they cover that rib graft with the skin graft. So the ears look very good. sometimes they're not quite as close as to the other ear. You know, if it was a unilateral microtia case. If it's bilateral, the ears can be made as close as possible. It might even have a better chance for them looking very similar. Another couple of good, actually highly reputable, excellent rib graft surgeons is Dr. Charles Thorne out of New York City, and Dr. Arturo Bonilla out of San Antonio. And besides the rib graft technique for Dr. Brent's technique, there's a Nagata technique. There's a Dr. Nagata in Japan. And all his technique involves is taking a piece of a medpor or synthetic material and putting it behind the ear to prop it outward so that it has just a little bit higher profile and comes away from the head, and it actually stays that way. Sometimes without the medpor piece inserted in the back, the ears over time may flatten. But again, like I said, technology is advancing every day. Then there is the option for medpor. And medpor is a synthetic porous material that, instead of the rib graft, that material is shaped with heat and carving to look like the ear as close as possible, again, in a unilateral case. If it's a bilateral case, then the doctors will look at the parent's ears and try to make one or two as similar in size. And with medpor, it's typically done in one procedure. Sometimes a second procedure is required just to tweak the earlobe and make it look a little bit better. And it's nice because the child doesn't have to go through the additional procedures, but there are many families that feel very strongly about biological materials only. They don't really want a man-made ear. Some people refer to it as a fake ear, but in reality it is just the internal framework. It's still covered by your child's skin graft. And that skin graft does become vascularized. It feels pain. Your child will feel itching. If you're stung by an insect, sometimes the ear will swell up, but in 95% or more of the cases it heals just fine. This came straight from Dr. Reinisch. Dr. Reinisch is the medpor expert. He is the pioneer that developed the technique. Dr. Thomas Romo in New York City is also a medpor surgeon. He's also highly reputable. So with that being said, are there questions? I'm sorry, I had to ramble on. I just wanted to get through the stages.
Where would I get information about your support group?
Okay. So,
part of it.
Oh, absolutely. So, first of all, it's Facebook. So I'm sorry if you don't Facebook. Just join, and that's all you have to do if you don't want to get sucked into the Facebook world. But it's on Facebook, and the group is called Microtia and Atresia Support Group. As you start typing it in, it should come up. And on the profile picture, you'll see the side view of my daughter's ear. And we're currently up to, over 700 members, and there's almost 9,000 members completely in the group. A little over 250 of them choose to remain anonymous, which means that they haven't clicked the like button because they don't want their name or profile to become public. And there's for many reasons with that. Some families have a difficult time dealing with their child having microtia and atresia, or maybe it's an ethnicity issue where sometimes the families can come down really hard on the parents, just wondering what they did, in-laws, you know. So there's some ethics involved with that. And, you know, as for just joining the group, it's free. You can click like, and I can see who you are, and I can send you emails. But the group is less than a year old, will be a year old on May 20th, and all of the top reputable surgeons, including the canaloplasty surgeons, Dr. Robertson, Dr. Kessler, they highly embrace the group. They're so thrilled that it offers a means of support psychologically and mentally to families. Like I said, there are individuals on there of all ages. And it's just a great means of research and information.
I have to attest that I was completely lost when I brought Mia home, and we went to Children's Hospital and they told me what was wrong, and I found I found it. I wasn't a Facebook user. Now I am, and I read through your discussions, and it just answered so many questions, and it then led me to places to find the right answers for other things. And just, hey, this wasn't my fault. She's unbelievably smart, so was good. But no, your site is wonderful. Everyone become a Facebook page.
Well, good. Thank you very much. Like I said, I found out that nobody could tell me much, or I didn't have any information. I actually was mad because I come out of the medical device, surgical device industry and marketing, and I work with doctors and surgeons all the time. And I was so upset that somebody couldn't help me with my child after all the surgeries I've been involved in. Nobody could help me. So I pretty much, what my group entails is I did all the research for everyone. And I always encourage everyone to also do their own research, too. But the information that's on there is absolutely current. It is the latest. I have pricing information. So, for example, for MedPour with Dr. Lewin and Dr. Reinisch, that pricing is approximately between $45,000 and $50,000. That does include canalplasty with Dr. Robertson, because Dr. Robertson will tend to partner with Dr. Lewin and Dr. Reinisch because their philosophy is to help children as early as they can. So you can have a MedPour and canalplasty surgery with those doctors as early as the age of 3. Where with rib graft, it's typically suggested that you wait till the age of 6. However, if your child is petite or small in stature, they may require you to wait until the age of 10 or 12. Some families worry about bullying and teasing and just not being able to hear everything in school. The typical things associated with hearing loss, maybe being held back a grade, having a speech and communication delay. So there's 2 options, and I believe that either one of the options surgically, they're the right decision. Whatever decision you choose is the right one. I always tell people no parent should ever be criticized for the decision, because we're only trying to do what's best for our kids. Also on my website for the support group, there are surgical links so you can actually view a rib graft procedure. There's I think at least 10 links for rib graft, including Dr. Brent and Dr. Benia. There's MedPour procedures. I have Baha implantable procedures on there. There's also a video of prosthetics. So it's very informative. It helps walk you through so that you know, and you can even sit there with your child if they're old enough. If they're worried or scared, you can sit there and watch and look at everything and know what's going to happen. I have tips for surgery, where to travel, where to stay during the surgeries, again, the cost for, say, rib graft. And that varies. It's anywhere between $65,000 and $80,000. It's because there's additional procedures. And you always have to take in. Go ahead.
Did you go to the conference or are planning to go to the conference?
No. Since my daughter is only 19 and a half months, I'm waiting on having her CAT scan taken, which we have to wait till she's at least 2 and a half, which is suggested, by the way, because of developmental reasons. So I will be attending the MedPour Atresia conference in 2012, so next year, and that will be back on the West Coast. Okay. And I do have conference information posted on my site as well for rib graft. International, my group is a global group, so I have all of the conferences posted.
Thank you.
And this year's conference will be held in Nashville, Tennessee for Dr. Lewin and Dr. Reinisch and Dr. Robertson, again, from MedPour. And Dr. Brent, his and Dr. Tess's is usually in New York or somewhere on the East Coast in November, but they haven't released the information yet. In fact, the Nashville, Tennessee information is still being updated. We just have the dates. They don't have details yet.
Have you ever talked to anyone who has attended? Do they think it was a worthwhile?
Yes. In fact, many families on my group, when I first started, I joined the Yahoo support group. That was my first group I found. And I had all these questions, hi, I'm new, I have a daughter with Microtia, and a lot of people reached out and helped me. And many of them had attended the conferences, and they told me it's the best thing to do, and I agree. I can't wait to go to the one next year, but you have to have that CAT scan. I mean, you can go anytime you want. You will absolutely benefit from the conference, but the CAT scan in hand will have Dr. Robertson or Dr. Kessler be able to tell you if your child is a candidate for canalplasty or atresia repair. You can also email them. And I forgot who mentioned it on the phone before, but yes, it is true. The surgeon that you're going to be working with, you ask them to tell you which CAT scan you need to get. don't get the wrong one. Don't subject your child to having an additional CAT scan that was unnecessary. They will tell you the exact one that you should get.
Now, my daughter is 11. She did have a CAT scan, I think when she was first born. Is that something that I would need to have redone?
Yes. And you're saying at birth. She had it at birth?
Yeah, and I think she had it when she was a couple of years old, too.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would always ask the surgeon, but my guess is if you're looking at surgery coming around the corner, if that is an option for you, they are going to want a more recent CAT scan.
Okay.
And some of the surgeons do allow what's called the mini CAT. It's just a lower dose type CAT scan. It does not require sedation. I think your daughter would be just fine. She wouldn't have to be sedated because she's old enough for another one. But there are those options, too. But, again, not every surgeon can read the low-dose scan. So it's always best to just ask them, which one do you want, and they'll tell you exactly what they want, basically.
This is Carrie. I'm going to jump in real quick and offer just an idea up to the parents that are on the call from Illinois. In Illinois, we have DSCC, Division of Specialized Care for Children, and they have what they call gift funds available in each office, and so you'll find out which your regional office will be yours. So if you don't qualify to be covered by DSCC financially, you can still get care coordination services from them, as well as I think you can still take advantage of these gift funds. So if you were looking at purchasing materials to assist your child in learning or other things, I'm not sure how far they go, or if you were looking to attend a conference to gather more information on caring for your child, you can contact them and see if they will support you or give you some support towards that conference. At least it's worth a shot giving them a call and finding out. So I'm not sure if any of you are aware of that, but I thought I'd mention it. Like I said, I don't know how much they help. I know that basically their funds are good for a year. I'm not sure if the year starts in August for them. So say you ask in July and they say, no, I'm sorry, we're out of funds. You might want to try again in I think it's around August that their year flips. So try it again, maybe September, October, and then see what they say, because you might get lucky. And essentially the idea behind gift funds is they're donations that they've received from private donors and whatnot, specifically saying, please use this towards, things that families need. And I know parents that have attained gift funds to attend a conference or some type of training seminar. So just something to put out there. If you don't know your DSCC regional office, you can go to the DSCC website, which is www.uic.edu/H as in Harry, S as in Sam, C /DD as in dog, S as in Sam, C as in Charlie, C as in Charlie. And their general 800 number is 800-322-3722. And then you can always ask them. That goes into Springfield, and they'll tell you which regional office would be yours.
Oh, that's wonderful, Terry. That's great news. See, a lot of us, we just don't even know where to look for that information. I will tell you that the conferences typically cost, it's about $75 a person to being free. It just depends. Like I said, I'm not sure myself because I have not gone to one of them before, but I have all the details posted on my support group. So it's typically travel expenses and hotel stay that you're looking at.
Now, I guess if anyone else has questions, obviously feel free to pipe in over me because I'm asking out of curiosity. But, Melissa, if you had a family that perhaps might be listening to this call and they've just found out, just had their child and just kind of starting on this journey, I guess a timeline. You mentioned a couple things like, rib grafts not until the 6th, med pores, a 3 and up.
Right.
Are there any other timelines? Like, where do Bajas fit in, and anything else that you can think of that you've experienced along your journey?
Right. Okay. Well, if you encounter a new family that has a newborn, and they are going to, well, some people handle feelings better than others, but most times they're going to be very overwhelmed. They're going to be a little depressed, very sad, and of course, coming off of pregnancy hormones, I think we've all been there. But what I would first tell them, because they're going to be very overwhelmed, is reach out and say, you know what, if you ever need to speak to another family that has another microtic atretic child, to let them know that there are other families out there. Mention things like my support group, go through Hands and Voices like with Dahlia, she has a child. Because when nobody talked to me, the first I ever heard from anyone was when my daughter was 10 months old. And I got 2 phone calls from Hands and Voices from the Guide by Your Side girls. And you know, that was priceless. It was, sorry if I get a little emotional, but those 2 phone calls with them meant the world to me. I wished I would have had someone to talk to when my daughter was born. Just to know that I'm not alone and there's nothing that I did wrong. And she's going to be okay. You know, just things like that. That's where I would start. I would reach out and offer them help and support through the helpful services, through Hands and Voices, my group, etc. Then make sure that they have had an ABR test right away, because as every child that has a hearing issue, when they're born, they're tested with a hearing screening, and oftentimes they will refer. But I'm finding out that some pediatricians don't always suggest you need to have an ABR right away to see where your child's hearing loss is. So that is something that's very important. It can also tell the parents if the child's cochlea is functioning. And this is where this comes in to allow them to wear a Baja. If the cochlea is not functioning, the Baja will not work. So, again, the ABR tests are extremely important. And then, again, to stay on top of those tests and make sure that nothing is deteriorating. I know we had a mother on this call mention that her child had a benign tumor, which is typically a cholesteatoma that can occur. Yeah, and although it is benign, it can damage hearing if it remains unnoticed. And they do grow back, so sometimes it might take 2 or 3 surgeries to remove it, but they can absolutely be removed permanently and be gone for good. It's just, it depends on the nature of it in your child's ear. But again, I stress, the hearing tests would pick that up, even going to an ENT. And I will stress this too. I have been through 3 ENTs and 3 audiologists. And I don't know if it's because I work with doctors and surgeons all the time, but when I'm not happy, I seek that second or third opinion. Because this is my child we're talking about here, not theirs, not anyone else's. It's always our children. And if you are not happy or you feel that you are not getting the right information, don't get mad. Take that energy and direct it towards someone else who can get you the right answers. Like I said, not every doctor knows everything, but I don't ever want parents to feel that what the doctor said is right. Maybe some of it's right. Maybe they need to know more information. I can't tell you how many people have come to my group and they said, Melissa, I've never heard of MedPour. My daughter's 8. I've been talking to my doctors and surgeons for the past 6 years, and I've never heard of MedPour. It's because maybe those doctors they've been speaking with don't know enough about it or don't believe in it. Maybe they only believe in rib graft, and that's why they were talking about rib graft as an option only. You have to see multiple doctors to get to become better informed and become better well-rounded. You never know. Maybe in the end the prosthetic ear might be the correct option for you. I always encourage sift through everything so you can make the best decision for your child. After the ABR tests, that, like I said, the audiologist is the only one that can prescribe a Baja. An ENT cannot. So you can suggest to the parents to go to both doctors, absolutely. And then with the audiologist, based on the hearing loss, they hopefully will be able to get a loaner or a trial unit in, and they'll actually preset it for your child's hearing loss. And as a Hands and Voices member, I always encourage to be open to any options. No one should ever tell you what to do, but suggestions are fine. with my daughter wearing her Baha, she started wearing it as of 11 months, and honestly, I have noticed a huge difference. She has more facial expressions. She actually looks up at us when we talk to her. She wasn't acknowledging us before, even though she has normal hearing in her left ear. She still has some issues localizing sound. She'll like look around for us before she finds us, but it's like a different child. Like what my therapists say is she has become engaged with her environment. It's like someone turned on the switch. I mean, it was the difference between night and day. And I had been told that oftentimes when you put a Baha on a child, you will cry tears of joy. I mean, Allie, when my audiologist called her name from behind her and she put her voice against her microtic atretic ear, Allie whipped her head around in the direction of her microtic atretic ear and she smiled. I mean, it was the best, one of the happiest moments of my life. She just was not doing that up until the Baha was put on her. And pretty much then from there, I guess I would suggest to the parents, tell them the options about Med-4, rib graft. They don't have to do anything, and prosthetic. Let them take their time and research on their own because it can be very overwhelming. Let them get there as they're ready. And they can always ask questions to get there faster if they need to.
I have a question. When my daughter was first born, she had the atresia. You know, my first reaction is, what can we do, and what can we do surgically? And I have seen the plastic surgeon in our area, who's considered, the specialist in Chicago, to do the graft. But me and my husband feel differently. My daughter's 11. I saw him a year ago, and she was kind of on the smaller side, and he kind of recommended to wait another year. But my husband feels like, that's her body. We should make any decisions that would be permanent, that she should be a teenager to do that. But I am concerned, because my daughter, I always used to put her hair up, and now she never wears her hair up. And I think it is, she's at the age of her body's changing. She's a preteen, and I think she wants to cover it. I mean, she never felt shame about it. Like if people would say, "Oh, what's that?" she would always show it. But now she doesn't do that because no one knows it.
Well, and of course, being a girl, girls are very picky about their appearance. To acne, to anything. So I can understand. They always suggest not to cover the ear, but if that's what she's doing, it makes her feel comfortable. I say whatever makes her happy. If you and your husband, as I say, if you and your husband, I wouldn't call it arguing, but debating. It sounds like he'd rather have her wait. Where you're like, I think we should do this now because we have nothing to lose. It would help her get a jump start on her life. And help her out. What's your direct question?
Does any other parents have the same issue, or would their spouse maybe feel differently in how to go about this? I mean, I'm open, and I think I'm glad to hear about the other things that have been done, that I need to join your Facebook and really kind of research everything that's out there, because I really kind of stopped looking and stuff.
Well, yes, there are many, many parents out there, and to a certain extent, I go through this as well. It may not necessarily be geared towards a specific surgical decision, but say, for example, if I choose the surgical option for Med-4 for my daughter, and say maybe I feel that, I don't want her to be bullied. I'm so worried. A piece of me would just die if she comes home from school crying because someone said something about her ear. It's not her fault. It's nothing she did. It's not fair. I worry because she is so young. The surgeries are a very long duration, anywhere from 7 to 12 hours under anesthesia. And, like I said, she is also small in stature, and I think, gosh, if we have to wait, then how long will that be? My husband and I have pretty much decided, I believe, that we're going to lean towards surgery. Where other parents can say, well, we want the surgery option as well, but we would rather wait until my child's a little bit old enough to make their own decision because this is their body. And oftentimes, those parents would maybe opt for rib graft because by then the child is, like I said, anywhere between 6 and 12. So it comes down to what option you honestly feel is the most comfortable. I mean, have you talked to your daughter? Have you asked her, City, how do you feel, or what do you think, aside from what you and your husband think is best for her? Because she's at the age now where she can have a choice and actually be mature enough to maybe talk about it a bit and understand more.
She has some developmental delays, so
Okay.
I have talked to her. She's afraid. She, like, oh, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. So it's not like she's really making a rational, but I don't know any 12-year-old can make that rational decision.
There's some YouTube videos out there where
and
children who are a little older, that might be beneficial to her.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest, you're welcome to speak with families in our group. In fact, I know a handful of families that have already had the canalplasty done along with either rib graft or Medcor. Their children are anywhere from 6 to 18. And, they would love to be able to reach out to you and your daughter. In fact, I even have a section on the group. It's letters from children who have already had surgery. And I call it Voices of Courage. Just children trying to speak out and say, you know what, I was afraid at first, but I'm so happy about my ear. I love my ear, or I can hear. Things like that might also help her realize that she is not alone and that it's okay to be afraid because other children were and now they weren't or they're not anymore and they're so happy. But I mean, that's part of the purpose of my group, too, is to reach out to those other families who've already been there, done that. And you will learn so much from them. Every experience has been different, although they're all similar, based on the surgery technique. But that's something that I would suggest, too, looking at the videos, reaching out to some of the families. When you join, you can send me an email, and I'll shoot you a couple of family emails.
Oh, great, I will. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the little girls, Emma is her name. She's 6 and a half, and she just had her surgery, and she was through quite a lot. She actually had the combined Microtia and Atresia surgery, which is only offered through Medcor. So she had her hearing restored and her ear created in one procedure. So that's also an option where that is not with rib graft. But she is such a happy little girl right now. She's on cloud 9. So, and she was afraid, you get through the scary parts with the bandages, and, I mean, nobody likes to see that. You always worry, is it infected? I can't tell. I have parents who reach out to each other through my group as well. Once they've had the surgery, they'll send out a post on the wall saying, anybody, was there a weird or strange odor, or, the part of the bandage is stuck to the ear, how can I get it off? And some other parent will speak up and say, oh, well, do this, because they've had the same surgery with the same doctor. So, I mean, my group offers that help as well.
No, I'm so glad glad to hear it, because I really, it sounds like all the work is done for me just to evaluate and, look at all the different options she has now. So that's a great feeling.
Well, and it helps so much, too, to reach out to other families because, we're all in this together and we all love to support one another because there's not a lot of people out there. Not everyone is missing an ear or two or have a little crooked smile, But this is like a very unique group, and it's so nice to have everyone for each other. But those are the things I would suggest to try and help her. Otherwise, as a parent, I guess I could maybe understand you opting for the canalplasty because it would help her hear, or she'd have an ear where she'd be proud to wear her syrup. I can see it. I mean, that's what most of us think. We look at our children and they're so beautiful, but then you always are thinking of ways to make them happier, and you want to keep them happy, and just little things like that. You do your research, and with the canalplasty, it's typically done in one procedure. Dr. Robertson and Dr. Kessler are the elite. However, there are others out there. Just always ask for contact information to families who've had the surgeries. Ask to speak directly with them. Are you happy? Is your child happy? May I speak with them? Are they hearing all right? How much did the hearing improve? because when you have canaloplasty, the hearing isn't restored immediately. It takes a number of months for the healing to take place, the swelling to go down. Sometimes there's excess bleeding. Oftentimes, in order to help keep the canals from collapsing, when the middle ear and the ear canal is created, they'll have a plug in their ear for over a month. So your child still can't hear right off the bat. You know, you should never get your hopes up about that. But it seriously will take up to a year for the hearing to continue to get better and better and better. And honestly, they have restored hearing anywhere from, oh gosh, what I've read, like an 85 dB loss, and the hearing has been restored up to 15, which is normal range. It's amazing. It really is amazing. There are situations where there is the risk of the canal collapsing after they have created it. And this is where some surgeons will argue, rib graft, one of the philosophies is to wait until the children are a little older, mainly because of that reason, as one of them, besides having to wait to where the rib graft material is actually mature enough. The rib has to be strong enough in order to make an ear. That's why they can't do rib graft at an earlier age, and that's why Med4 can. But with canaloplasty, honestly, if anyone is really worried about when to have their child's inner ear and hearing restored, the safest bet would be after 18, after the pubescent years, because then the skull and the facial bones, everything has fully developed, and there's no risk in bone shifting due to growth. But nobody ever wants to wait that long, and there's no guarantee. And oftentimes when the canaloplasty has been performed, whether the child is 3 or 12, honestly, the outcomes are great. Everyone always remembers the bad. They hardly remember the good. So that's when you can speak to those surgeons about how often they have any complications and how they can be corrected if something did occur. Does anyone have any questions about IEPs or 504 plans regarding BAHAs in schools?
I don't know what those are.
Okay. How old is your child? You just said that. 13? Okay.
13 months.
Oh, 13 months. Okay. So I didn't know any of this either, of course, until Early Intervention Services stepped in and began helping my daughter. And I've learned a lot, actually a great deal through Hands and Voices. I just attended their IEP parent advocacy training 2 weekends ago. And I'm not sure if Lynn Bopp, are you on the line? Okay, that's one of my Colorado guys by your side. And Cresta, are you on the line? Okay, they both had things to do, and they thought maybe they could make it. Anyways, they are very well versed in IEP and 504 plans. What they are is an IEP is an individual educational plan, and it's basically a legal contract that you as the parents draw up for your child, and you would like the school to carry it out. So say, for example, your child has a hearing loss. They have unilateral hearing loss, and they wear a BAHA, or maybe by the time they go to school, they would like to wear an FM transmitter, where the teacher will be able to speak into the mic, and your child will hear directly through that relay of the signal, and they don't have to interrupt the class, or your child won't have problems hearing, because it's directly from the feed of the teacher's mic into their ear. In these types of contracts, you have a right, as of the age of 3, to put information in there that you would like or feel that your child might need a little extra help with while they're in the classroom. So you could put things in there like, I would like my child to be seated up front because they can't always hear everything. If your child is wearing an FM transmitter, I would like that the teacher is trained in it and agrees to wear it and will help my child in case a piece of it falls off or, something is not working, that they tell the parents so that they can get it fixed. A lot of times children with hearing loss, there's a lot of fatigue and strain, extra effort to try and hear, so a lot of times they'll act out, and some doctors or even psychologists, whoever the parents are suggested to go see about these issues, sometimes it'll be mistermed as ADHD, and that's not always the case. Acting out just means they're tired, they're frustrated. They've had an enhanced assisted hearing device on them all day, and they're hearing things they're not used to hearing. And the lighting, the extra echoing in hallways, all of that plays into the account of your child being very tired and worn out by the time they come home. So sometimes they act out. That's the way they release it, their frustration. And nobody would really know that unless they had a hearing loss. So you can put things in there that they require a break in the morning and a break in the afternoon for like 10 to 15 minutes so they can regroup and, come back to the classroom, be able to sit there and focus again. Maybe your child will require speech therapy. Maybe they're having a slight little delay in communication, and you're asking for therapy services to be present in the school for anywhere from 30 minutes every day to at least maybe once or twice a week. And oftentimes through Hands and Voices, you can have a member go in with the family and sit there and help them get through that IEP with the entire school board. And we're talking there could be up to 20 people representing the school board in there, therapists, special education teachers, the principal, everybody in there, including the teachers, and you all try to work it out together and figure out what is the best thing. But schools do play tough, so that's why you need to know what you want for your child, and you have to say no and make sure that you get what you want for your child. There's always a way to work it out. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but you try your hardest. And the main goal of that IEP is if your child qualifies for an IEP at the age of 3, you will be able to have services oftentimes for free, provided at the school, paid for.
This is Carrie. I'm going to jump in. Before they're 3, if they're enrolled in early intervention, the child will have an IFSP, and that's the Individualized Family Service Plan. And around 2 and a half, that's when your service coordinator at your early intervention office will work with you to start helping you plan for your transition. And you'll start meeting with the school district, evaluations will start to happen, so that before the child turns 3, you'll have your IEP meeting, and everything will be in place when your child turns 3 for services to start, if that is what is determined at your IEP. In Illinois, we do have a parent guide on staff who is very well versed in IEPs and loves the law piece of it. So, and we currently don't have anyone from Hands of Voices or Guide by Your Side that will go with a family on behalf of Hands of Voices or Guide by Your Side, partly because of the whole legal ramifications. We don't want to be held legally responsible for anything that may or may not be said or may not happen. It's one of those things where people are just, they take things beyond what is really said sometimes. And so because of that, our goal is really to help families empower themselves so that they can go to that IEP process and feel like they can handle it, so that when next year's IEP happens, they are able to tackle that one and for all the IEPs down the road. The other piece of that, too, is that, speaking from my personal experience, if you've ever brought anyone in from the outside on your behalf to the IEP, sometimes that will set a mood for the IEP with the rest of the team. And they might be a little bit on guard, and it might start you off on the wrong foot. And if you plan on living where you're living now for several years and you plan on working with your school district for those years, you don't necessarily want to start off on that foot. Not saying that you shouldn't do that, but it's, I guess, knowing the stuff yourself, empowering yourself, I guess, eases your transition throughout the years and eases your relationship with the district.
Right. And these are all excellent points, Carrie, and thank you for clarifying, because every state is different. Here in Colorado, we do offer those services through H&V, but, like I said, every state is different. Also with Baja's early intervention programs If you're on support groups, every now and then you'll see somebody say, well, my child's AHA was paid for, so early intervention or birth to 3. They all have different names. It depends on the state and the program. But they're all from birth to 3. And like here in the state of Colorado, early intervention does not pay for a BAHA. Even if you have exhausted applying for scholarships and looking for funds, and maybe you might have a shot at trying to apply through Medicaid Part 3C, you might have an option for them to help out, but like the state of New York or state of California, there's just more funds. Those states are just different. So it's always best you do your own research. It does empower you, and it does help you to become the best parent advocate for your child.
Yeah, and you guys know what problem we're having in Illinois. In fact, EI is trying to change the services for audiology and what is covered and what isn't covered. So I think we're going to be finding that things that might have not been covered before might be covered now, but other things that we were used to having covered won't. So, it's just we're at the mercy of the budget in Illinois,
Yeah.
So, but just keep in mind that you can do it. Yeah, it is scary. And, my husband, we walked into our IEP last week, and he said, we walk into the room, and there's 15 people sitting there, and he walks in, and he's the only male. He's like, not only am I overwhelmed by all the females in the room, all the people in general, too. And it's just one of those things where, I remember as a kid, I was scared to learn how to drive. I swore I was not going to learn how to drive because I was scared. I was going to get in an accident. Well, wouldn't you know it, I'm driving. And it's one of those things until we try it, until we get our courage, until we can get that feeling that we can do it, nothing's, I guess, impossible.
Right. And, besides all the great points brought up for IEPs, one of the main reasons is to just make sure that your child is getting everything that he or she is entitled to out of their education. It's not very fair when your child has a hearing issue, and although they have a hearing aid, they're pushed to the back of the classroom, say, because nobody put it in IEP that I want my child to sit up front, you have to teach her better. Or, nobody's aware that they really have a hearing issue. Sometimes the child can be held back a year. It's the purpose of to help your child not to struggle. You want them to have every opportunity as every other child in that class.
Great point.
So an IEP is a good thing. And if your child is delayed, oftentimes you will qualify. Again, there are some stipulations. You just have to fight a little harder for them and be that parent advocate that you need to be for your child. But oftentimes if your child is no longer showing delays, and somehow along the lines they somehow prove, or whatever you want to call it, that they are showing progress, they're meeting expectations, and they're fine, then the IEP will not be granted to you. And you have to worry about them not losing progress. The point is not really to get up to speed, it's to exceed and maintain. You don't want them to fall back. A lot of times end-of-year school, our children are out of school for 2-3 months, and they forget a lot. Well, sometimes children with a hearing loss or a hearing-related issue, it takes them time to come back up to speed again. It's nothing mental about them. They're perfectly fine, but when they struggle in the classroom to hear, there's always a little delay. And they have to work harder to hear what everything is being said in order to piece it all together and hear what everyone else is hearing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and as I sit and listen to you sharing that, it's one of those things you might be sitting on the phone call thinking, well, how do I know what I don't know? How do I know what to ask for at that IEP? And that just boils down to you networking with other parents, talking with your parent guides if you have one, so that you can ask those questions and get input. And know that everyone has different experiences. And some people do have to fight through districts, and some, it's easy breezy. The district will share things with them as options that the parents never even thought was a possibility. So you don't know until you cross that bridge, but how do you, get prepared for that journey across the bridge as you talk to other parents?
Right.
That, I think, was great for Melissa to be here tonight to share with us her experience and her information so that we can all get a little bit more informed and have more resources for this journey. Are there any more questions for Melissa?
Exactly.
No.
Okay, well, I encourage all of you, if you haven't already joined my support group, there you will find so much information. There's tons of information on IEPs and 504 plans too, to help explain what they are, why they're in place. And I'm going to be adding to that from the training I just went to. And, you know, you are absolutely welcome to send me an email with questions. My email address is Melissa, MELISSA, _ Tumblin, TUMBLIN as in Nancy, at yahoo.com. So Melissa _ Tumblin at yahoo.com. And I'd be happy to answer them as best I could. But the group will definitely get you in the right direction. You'll feel so much better after you start sifting through the information. And you will just learn so much that you never even imagined. I mean, even other things associated with Microtia and Atresia that just happen.
Well, I just want to say thank you, and then I've really enjoyed this conference call, and kind of got me back to looking and reviewing all the information I need for my daughter, and I'm looking forward to joining the Facebook as soon as by tomorrow at least.
Well, good. Well, you're welcome. You're very welcome.
Wonderful. And Dahlia, if you're still on the line, would you mind sharing that flyer if you email it to Carrie, email it to me, so that I can share it with the other families?
Yeah, I absolutely will. I absolutely will. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you. All right, well, thank you so much, Melissa, for leading us on this call tonight and sharing some time. I know you're an hour, ahead of us? Behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's perfect time to put my little ones to bed right now, so we're good.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for being on the call tonight. And, you know, if you're interested, next month's call will be about FM systems. All right. Thank you so much. You guys have a great night. We'll catch you later. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.